Welcome to Selling Circular, the podcast dedicated to exploring the innovative minds and ideas shaping our transition to a circular economy. I'm Sabira Lakhani, VP of Product at Reaply.
I'm Gar Punnett, CEO of LoopLayer. Today, we're excited to introduce you to Nic Esposito, co-founder of Circa Systems, the brain behind Unless Kids, a groundbreaking platform transforming how parents buy, use, and cycle children's toys in Philadelphia. In this enlightening conversation, Nic shares his journey from identifying a simple household pain point of too many toys to creating a scalable circular economy solution that's winning over both parents and investors. This powerful philosophy is really underpinning Nic's approach to that sustainable commerce.
In this episode, you'll discover how Unless Kids has developed a unique product cycling model, which I really loved, that offers pre-loved toys at remarkably affordable prices, all while encouraging families to return items and toys when they're done. We'll explore their innovative membership structure, their toy chest interface that gets kids super excited about cycling, and even learn about their special Zap bug for sanitizing plush toys.
Which I love how they rolled that out, and we'll learn more about how they rolled that out to their audience and how it helped educate their audience.
Nic also takes us behind the scenes of their funding journey from their network round pre-seed to their current seed funding efforts as they look to expand beyond Philly and into new product categories, potentially like sporting equipment.
So there's fascinating insights here for entrepreneurs and sustainability advocates. So whether you're a parent drowning in plastic dinosaurs or an entrepreneur curious about circular business models, we simply are really just figuring out how we might reimagine the consumption in a resource-constrained world. This episode offers that rich food for thought steeped in toys.
As Nic points out, circularity is increasingly rising above politics because it just makes sense economically and environmentally. So settle in for a conversation that might just change how you think about ownership, childhood consumption, and the future of retail. Let's get to it.
But first, a little bit more about our first Selling Circular partner, Circularity 25, presented by Trellis Group.
Hey Circular Squad, we're teaming up with our friends at Trellis Group to bring you the inside scoop on the hottest event in circular economy, Circularity 2025 in Denver.
If you're getting CES vibes, think about that, except instead of the Consumer Electronics Show, we've actually got 3 days of circular economy solutions. It's why we love Circularity, not just because it's the preeminent proving ground for circular economy breakthroughs, but also it's because where we actually meet many of our podcast guests for the first time, and they actually end up becoming friends.
Which we love. So from April 29th to May 1st, Colorado Convention Center is going to be buzzing with innovators, policy movers and shakers, and circularity changemakers. And if you're there in person or online, our partnership with the Trellis Group has got you covered. So when you join in person, you're going to have inspiring keynotes, actionable workshops, and the ability to share great meals with industry colleagues. And then, of course, you can take those learnings back to your team. And if you're joining online, we've also partnered with Circularity to bring you live inside content from the conference.
You get to see Sabira behind the scenes, working the interviews. So use code C25podcast at registration for 15% off passes. But hurry, because again, as the conference gets closer, the prices go up. So grab your reusable coffee cup, rally that team, because we're all about building this future together, one reclaimed polymer / one circular partnership at a time.
See you in Denver.
I would love to then talk about, we can start with the pre-seed, get into sort of some of the investor types of conversations you're having. Sure. I think it's a great area to start with because it helps people understand how to communicate these complex topics to investors that maybe are unfamiliar or are more familiar with maybe more linear approaches to business models and systems. I would love your take on that. Where did you guys start in terms of communicating that on the pre-seed? And then where is that now taking you into this new venture journey?
Sure. So, when I'm getting into these conversations, one, I would just like to say how exciting it is to see how circular economy is really breaking through, especially in the institutional investment community, which I think is really, really exciting and important. I know that I'm up against, I'm getting on a call with somebody and maybe they had 3 calls earlier that day with, the traditional SaaS and then also AI. Like everyone, that's where investment's going right now. And the fact that I'm also getting in the door with my circular economy idea, pitching it and people saying, that makes a lot of sense. Like I see this. That's really, really important. So that's great to see as we're starting that. When it comes to just our funding journey that we've done, our pre-seed was, I like to call it the network round. We kind of went into our network and we said, who wants to support this? And I look at rounds as, I think some people get a little too hung up on the money raising aspect of it. Of course, you have to set a goal that connects to your financials and your projections and your runway and what you need to accomplish. But I look at it as, what did you accomplish in that round? And with the pre-seed, what we were setting out to do was to build the MVP of Unless Kids, get it out in the market, start showing product market fit, and we've accomplished all of those things. And that's why it felt like it was the right time to move over to our seed round.
That was so critical. I loved that you were talking about in a lot of the material that I found online of talking about really getting Unless Kids launched to prove that model. Can you talk a little bit about that adoption and what you all saw in terms of traction? I saw one of the stats was around the first 6 months, there were 50 users. And that acquiring those 50 users was really critical to understanding how they were going to interact with the platform. Can you talk a little bit about that and then the success you've seen since?
Yeah, for sure. So, just on the top of why we just launched Unless Kids first, right? Because there's Circa systems, but Unless Kids is what we created. And the reason we did that was because, could we have taken all of our knowledge of the circular economy and the technology needed in that experience and created some, SaaS tech solution that we went to these different companies and tried to sell it? In our opinion, it was no. That wasn't, because what we're looking to do is something that we really do not see in the market. One thing that we did that was really important to us, even before pre-seed, when we first started the company, was very, very thorough and kind of ruthless customer discovery. I mean, I had conversations with hundreds of parents, and when I started bringing up this idea, again, it came from a pain point in my life. My kids were 6 and 3 at the time. I went to my wife and was like, this is a problem. There has to be a better way to buy toys. And, the joke I always tell with her is she kind of looked at me and she's like, toys? Like that's the end game for all, like everything you've been doing in the circular economy between working with the city and circular, like everything, that this is where we're going. And I'm like, no, this is the beginning. It's like, if we can unlock toys, then we unlock this whole world of product cycling. And the way that was formed through product cycling is we learned from parents where there was a lot of limitations when it came to, especially the kind of like peer-to-peer marketplaces, right? Whether it's like a buy nothing group or a paid service that people are kind of exchanging, just the agita that you go through of, is someone going to show up? What's the quality? People wanted quality assurance. They wanted curation. Then when we started getting into, okay, look at other forms that are happening right now, subscriptions, rentals, especially when it came to toys. That's why it was so fun to work with toys, a kind of lower priced item. People were kind of like, I don't want to rent the Paw Patrol tower. I just want to buy it up front for what I know is a good value, and then I'll get it back to you if you make it convenient enough for me to do that. The subscription model, again, I think can be very useful in certain aspects, and people use it to great effects, and I'm not knocking anybody who is, but from what we heard in the market was people saying they get burned out by the subscription, that every month something's coming to my house, I have to give it back. So we said, okay, how can we take all the elements of what people want and put it into one platform? And that's what we did. And when we looked at it, we said, there isn't a company doing this right now. So to just make something theoretical and then go to the big brands and say, you should do this, especially with all the operational and logistic things that need to go into it, we said, we have to learn and we have to build our first brand. And that's where we saw a big opportunity. And now we're seeing a big opportunity just to continue to grow it. And that's exciting.
I love that aspect of you're not going to a big brand and saying, what if you could do this? Because again, Sabir and I have seen that tends to fall fairly flat. So it's good to sort of prove a different way to do something. Yeah. Sabira, please.
No, go ahead.
Or Nick, yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, I'll be transparent and just say this. Like, I want the brands to come to us and being like, you're selling our stuff over and over again. I went in on this deal. Like, that's what I want. I wanted them to come to us rather than us have to go to them.
Yeah. Make it so compelling they can't ignore it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, because I was going to ask, when you were doing your customer discovery, like, what did you learn about, like, the thrifting model, the once upon a kid kind of like store? Do people want that like in-person ability to like check the quality? And how does that influence your differentiation?
Yeah, so that was a very mixed bag on what people said. Like, some people have, even though we're light years ahead of, where things were even 10 years ago with thrifting, we had a saying at Circular Philadelphia that we created where he said, where secondhand doesn't mean second rate, right? And I think that we've really gone past that, like that we've gone past that thinking, especially with the younger generation. So we're in a pretty good place with that. But, like I said, it was a mixed bag of some people being like, I like being in store. I like being able to touch and feel it. Other parents being like, I never take my kids to the toy. We're in Target and the toy aisle's there where I'm like, come on, keep walking. So they don't even want that. Like, I'd like to go onto a platform to be able to look through things and be able to kind of buy at my pace. especially given the fact that we're such a local company that we're here. And then again, that's another plug for, I think sometimes too, when it comes to investment, we'll talk about that more with circularity. I mean, there's this big push to go national, right? People want to see scale. They want to see that this thing can grow and they're going to get return on their investment, which of course they need that. But the whole point of the circular economy is creating these resilient, efficient, and better regionalized supply chains. So that's why we're doing this. And now that we're operating in Philadelphia, it gives us a little bit more of, okay, yeah, we're an e-commerce company, but it's also an e-commerce company that I feel like I could touch, feel, I can, ask to see something. I can see them in events, things of that nature. So that's something that we really try to understand and look at. But I always want to say, I love, another plug I want to give you, because Sabir, you brought up thrift stores. I love thrift stores. There was one right down the street from my house I go to. I don't want to see them go away. And that's another way we're not trying to dominate the market and destroy thrift stores. We want to get to a place where it's not, should I buy something secondhand? It's where, or pre-loved. I like saying pre-loved better. Where do I buy something pre-loved, right? And you have all these different options, and we're happy to be one of those options in the marketplace.
I guess I also have maybe a legal question going back to what you were saying, having the brands come to you. I guess, how did you feel confident that you could take a Fisher Price toy and then just cycle it over and over again?
I mean, as of now, I don't know what the lobbying is going to look like in Washington, especially with this new administration. But as of now, I mean, from my understanding, it's a completely people have been doing this forever, reselling things. What I will say, we did do some legal considerations, and that's why we started with toys as well. We have covered our bases on, when we use the words like refurbishment, we don't say total repair, because when you start repairing something, you're changing the construction of that item, and it no longer is that item, and there's legal liabilities wrapped up in that. There's also, when it comes to higher ticket things, that's why we're not doing anything in the baby gear space. There's just so much legal liability around that, and not that we don't want to get there at some point. We're a lean and fast startup, and we're just trying to get going, and we didn't want to have to think about or jump over those legal hurdles.
I love toys in that, in for the reasons you were talking about, which was addressing the pain point. There's very particular success stepping stones with circular economy where you need volume and repetition for maybe certain client action, or at least a market that sees cyclical buying types of activities. And in kids area, I'm sure that's upgrading, or I hate to say kid, well, I mean, it's true. Kids get bored with something and they want a new thing. So it's that repetition, that cyclical buying is important. That's kind of why I love your catchphrase, or at least seemingly your catchphrase, which, why make 10,000 things and sell them 10,000 times when you can make 1,000 items and sell them 10,000 times? How does that philosophy translate into the business model?
Sure. And it actually came from my experience so one of my first entrepreneurial journeys that I went on was I launched and I founded a publishing company and a bookstore in Philadelphia called The Head in the Hand, and now it's H&H Books. So that was my first kind of foray, and I was in the publishing world. I'm a proud English major. That's the degree I have. I've done a lot with an English degree.
Good. Again, circular economy takes all minds. Yeah, we need everything. Yeah.
So part of that English degree was, I wanted to be a writer and put books out, and I just love writing, and I still go to The Head in the Hand a lot in H&H Books, and I'm proud of. I mean, we've published hundreds of writers, and we've published their books, and we've had some major successes. And we've had times where, I've actually, one experience was we had a great writer blew through his first printing of books, 2 months. We were like, oh my goodness, this is catching fire. So we do another printing, and then it just, because of reviews and cycles, that did not do the same. So what were we left with? Boxes and boxes and boxes of books. And I had that experience. I've schlepped books from one space that we were in to the next space that we were in. And I just kept thinking to myself, why did we have to print up all of these books? What if we just printed up 1,000 books and then we're able to sell 10,000 of them, right? Because we were getting them back. That is, or we were able to track it through its life cycle. That is something that was actually an initial thing that hit me.
That hits actually a little more viscerally than Sabira, you might know, which is my father published 2 children's books,
oh, cool.
And I have many of them at home. And so they are now great gifts, but they did a first run, and then that second run again took a little time to get those back out. So I love that circular model. Actually, I might send a book your way too, just to get your
we would
your
love to
feedback.
put it in our thing, and that's the thing. We're looking at this again for your dad. I'm sure he wants people to read it, right? He wants more people to get out.
Exactly.
And we're limited.
Yeah.
You know that people are sharing books, they're passing things on, and that's great that that's happening. But yeah, it's just, and it's not your dad, my, small publishing company startup. We're not in our own company, right? Last year, that's part of our pitch deck. brands discarded $163 billion worth of overstock they couldn't sell or returns. Like, that's a staggering amount of wasted money, wasted resources, and wasted opportunities. And that's what we're really trying to tap into.
I'm curious. So then, how do you? We're talking now. Well, we've been talking kind of about the supply side, but on the demand side, going back to the parents, um, they're probably different personas, right? One that want to touch and feel, one that want to shop online, but also I'm guessing they care about like the brand, or they care about the quality, they care about like what their kid is learning. And then there's the end consumer, right? The kid themselves, but the decision maker is the parent. So I guess I'm curious, like, is it been hard to get the parents to shift from like the buy new and keep to the more cycling model? And like, how has adoption been?
Yeah, so I mean, adoption continues to. I mean, we're growing at a steady like 5 to 10% every week for members that are signing up and getting on the platform, which is great. I mean, we had an initial jump. I mean, we did this like the kind of beta session over the summer, basically, that we had. We just put it out to like a bunch of families, and then we had like a small group of families that were actually using it. But we wanted to just see like, okay, everything worked. Like the logistics, this thing talked to that thing, like our routing system, like everything worked. And by end of summer, we were very confident that this was going to be good. So then we started doing like a neighborhood by neighborhood phase in Philadelphia. And then by mid-October, we said, okay, let's just open it up to the whole city. Right after that, we had some really great press that came from like our local newspaper in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and then our local like CBS and Fox affiliate. And then it kind of like blew up from there. It was weird timing. It was around holidays and Christmas, but it was kind of into December. So I think a lot of parents had already kind of bought their stuff for their kids. But it got us on the map. It like blew up our social media, and we had a lot of new members. We had like, 10x growth in our membership, and then we continue to grow pretty steadily after that. So we're seeing that adoption. When it comes to, personas, I mean, honestly, like, the way I look at it, and I think I put this like on a LinkedIn post one time, is we kind of have this arc of people. There's definitely a demographic of people that are gravitating to what we're doing. But honestly, it starts with price. Like, and I always this is a good thing, because when people, we'll get emails from people in like California that they've looked up this particular, like, I'm looking for this Elmo whatever toy, and ours will pop up first in SEO because we have the lowest price out of anybody in the internet. And they'll email us because they go onto the site and they're like, wait, but why can't I buy this thing? And then they'll email us like, why can't I buy from you? And we're like, because it's only in Philadelphia right now. And they're like, sell me this toy. Like, and that's like, I did have a business advisor once tell me, like, you never want to tell somebody they can't buy things from you, but it is nice to see that demand, that people are like, so you have that first entry point is like, okay, this is a great price. Then it's the convenience of it. It's like, you're going to come to my house and deliver it. And then I get to, like, when I buy new stuff, give you the old stuff back that I don't want anymore. Like, this is great. And then there's that eco guild side of it, right? They're like, nobody likes throwing things away. And what we really pitch as well is, especially kids' toys. Like, I've my kids, like, I don't want to throw their stuff in a landfill. Like, their essence is on that. There's like their embodied energy. It feels weird. So even if it's not even like worry about what we're doing to this planet, nobody likes throwing things away. That's just so. But if we could follow that arc, and that's basically what the arc of our consumer.
I do like to think about that as the Toy Story effect. There's that scene, right? Nobody wants that scene of them going into the inferno. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
I
terrifying.
think we've used that on Instagram a few times. I'm going to have to put that next. So that can really remind me. Yeah, for sure.
But so then, how has because the nature of cycling, has that helped give you a constraint on the type of toys that you're selling? I imagine that like it's easier to make a plush toy dirty as compared to a plastic or a wooden toy. So just curious, and if not, then like, how do you handle that?
And Samira, you brought up a really good point before that I wanted to touch on when you were talking about, like, we have to be very careful. We're very, very cognizant of not being looked at as a clean out service. Like, we're not a clean out service. Don't give us your junk. We have this thing called like the golden rule that's like, give unto others what you would give to your own child. And we had an early on like investor conversation with somebody who said like, yeah, you guys have proven you can get high quality stuff, but can you sell it? And then we have to always make sure, in any circular business, whether you're a compost business, right? You got to get the food scraps and then turn it into compost and actually sell it on the other side. Like, you have to have both of those businesses talk. That's the exciting but also challenging thing of circularity. When it comes to right now we're at the mercy of, like, we want to get high quality stuff. Don't give us stuff that's broken. Of course, things are going to slip through, and we have relationships with recyclers. I'm going to give a plug for Rabbit Recycling here in Philadelphia. They take our stuff that we can't use anymore. They're like an on-demand, hard to recycle item company. They're an incredible job they do. So we work with them, but most people are pretty good about it. However, there are certain things, like certain toys, that just have so many components. And we sell them. We sell Legos, we sell Connects, we sell things of that nature. But we definitely, because this is the beginning that we wanted to show, is people will give us high quality stuff that is in good condition that we can resell. The future of the system, once it really gets going, is we will have new stuff come into the system, and then we will track it through its lifespan of new to like new to gently loved to well loved. Like, and we've already done that a few times with making some investments, but for the most part, we've been at the mercy of what people are giving to us. It's funny you brought up plushies and stuffies, because we have a lot of them. A lot of people are getting rid of them. We did have a hard time selling them. So what we did was, again, just trying to be transparent about our processes. We bought this thing called the Zap Bug. It's this little like chamber. We found it online. You basically hook it in. It gets up to like 140 degrees. You put the stuffies in there. You sip it up half an hour. So basically, half an hour on high heat will kill any of the creepy crawlies that you do not want in your house. So that's what we do. And we did an Instagram video about it that people have seen and they like it. And then all of a sudden, after we put the video up, people started buying stuffies, and we're like, okay, like that works.
Well, interesting that like the proof point that here's the process that gives a boost of confidence to the parent.
Well, and how simple of it was to educate. I mean, really, that's what someone was looking for, a proof point, being like, oh, no, they solved that. Okay, great. Yeah, I would love to maybe take that on.
The comments on the Instagram posts were like, I was wondering what you guys did with these, and thank you for posting this, because, there's a hesitation. And again, like, nobody wants bed bugs, and we are not. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. So,
this is kind of a follow-up question, Sabir, to one you had on parents acceptance of this model. And I was sort of curious on that follow-up of, who do you find is more ready for sustainability? Yeah, is it parents or is it kids? Because there's something inherent that kids understand, and I would love to see where you come at from this.
I mean, kids. I mean, that was another like little data point in my mind. I've watched my boys like almost come to blows with their friends over this Tonka truck that is beat to hell, and it's like rusty. It's just like, this thing is so beat up, but they want it so bad. It's like kids, when you say new to a kid, it's new to them, right? Like, they're not, we were just somebody bought like this little ball popper, and we looked at it, and there's some scuff marks on the front, but like, no kid is going to look at that and be like, ew, I'm not playing. Like, these are learned things that are culture that we've learned as adults. Kid, like, you're from the mouths of babes, right? Like, they look at this stuff, and as long as it's in a good working condition, it makes sense, and they can play with it, they're in. And then, as kids go, they're out very quickly after that, and parents are like, now what do I do with this thing around my house? That's what we're trying to solve for. And we had one parent early on when we first did our first wireframes, and she said something. I was like, oh, this is so good. I want to just run with this. She's like, this is a site that I would like to go on with my kids and pick things out. I just did a video with my kids where I showed the process. Like, we buy from it all the time, and it was okay. We bought some new things, and now and the way it works is you go into your toy chest. We don't have a shopping cart. It's called the toy chest. And everything you bought before is still represented there with a cycle button next to it. So after we bought the things, I said, okay, guys, what are we cycling? And we went through and we clicked on it together. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've heard. Another thing we've heard from parents, like, we had one parent say, this is like magic for my child. They are playing with toys differently. They're treating them differently because they know that they're going to go back in that green bin and they're going to go to someone else. They're excited about it. Like, getting a kid to part with a toy, even though they haven't played with it in 6 months, could be torture. And now we're engaging kids in that. We're shifting behavior through just a better way to buy things, which is super exciting.
That's really impressive. I wonder, and then while you were talking, I also had like that, going back to the pricing question, is that you hook the parents who want the low price, but you know that you're going to have multiple cycles. So how have you thought about the pricing so that you're accounting for multiple lives and how many cycles and and then the logistics of cleaning?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these are all things that we track with our our data that we have on, how long it's taking to clean something, how many uses we're getting out of a toy. I mean, again, we've only been in operation really, I would say, since October was when we went citywide, and that's like the real big data pool, was like outside of beta. And we've seen a toy get used 3 or 4 times already, for people swapping it back and going back and forth. So that's been really, really exciting to watch. But yeah, we're constantly looking at, all the timing. And we have projections, even especially as like something comes in new, what we're going to pay wholesale on that. And then as it degrades down the line, we have a pricing structure. Our pricing structure basically is based off of what is like the most competitive price on the internet right now. So we'll go to sites and look at, okay, what are they selling that at that site for? And then we apply a condition discount. So we're obviously, the prices that we're seeing on the internet are for like a brand new toy out of the box. We have certain percentages for like new, gently loved and well loved. And then we have another, we call it the circularity discount. We apply on top of that. And then members get another discount on top of that. So people that are paying every month to be a member, and the membership's only $4.99 a month. It's very cheap, but you're getting another percentage. So we have all that. But even with that, we continue to talk about dynamic pricing structure, kind of like dropping prices, raising prices, as demand is kind of coming in and being able to kind of engineer that. But yeah, I mean, with all those discounts applied, just to put it in perspective, my son's birthday was in October. I went and bought him like 8 different toys, and again, it wasn't like tchotchke junk. It was a baseball mitt. It was games, a Jellycat stuffy, which retail for pretty high. And I checked out, and it was $64. It's $8, on average a unit that people are paying, and people are just like. And again, that's been the cool behavioral thing is when parents pay, they're paying a low price, but they're still valuing the service. So they're not treating things poorly. They're not just like devaluing what we're doing, but they're also fine parting with it, where they're like, yeah, my kid played with it for a couple months. I paid $10 for this thing. Like, yeah, take it back. It's fine.
But you're not forcing folks to send the product back. It's like when they want.
In the fine print in the FAQ, it's not fine print, it's in the FAQs and normal type. We don't make it any smaller than anything else on the site. You can keep a toy for up to a year and maintain that circularity discount. If you keep it for over a year, you lose the circularity discount. Again, this is like we're using behavioral tactics through loss aversion. And just people they like to know what they paid up front, and then they don't want to lose that discount or anything like that. But some parents have taken us up on the offer. They're like, you know what? I don't even want to think about the whole year thing. My kid loves this. They're going to keep it forever. I'll pay it. And then they'll pay the difference and then they buy more stuff.
What are you finding are like the key demos right now? And then where you all are thinking about expanding the demo in terms of age groups? And what is that key market that is kind of coming up next?
Yeah, so I would say for like our key demo right now are just, they're women ages 25 to 44, different parts of the city. But, we're definitely seeing a lot of uptick in like the denser parts of the city, like South Philadelphia. I don't know if you know South Philly, but it's like row house, a little bit, very row house life down there, smaller houses. They don't have a lot of space. So there's definitely that kind of mixture. But what I love about what we're doing and something that really is near and dear to my heart and where it's been so great to like kind of, form my career in Philadelphia is we're the biggest, poorest city in the United States. And that really has, in many ways, formed how I think about my business, how I think about my advocacy, how I think about everything that I do. And we're building this platform. I mean, this is a great opportunity for someone who's on a really serious budget. Like sustainability, circularity should not be inaccessible to people that can't afford it. And we built something that actually is incredibly affordable for people.
So often we see, I love that because so often we see that circular economy has these premium connotations, these premium tiers to it. And I love that this is so critically affordable, addressing a need. To then ask one more demo question, on the kid side, what are you finding is that sweet spot for kids age, or that type of toy category they're interested in? And then what type of toys or equipment is next in that mix? Where are you guys looking?
Yeah, I would say like 3 to 6 is probably pretty much like a really good demographic for us. We do get a decent amount. We're trying to build our like 1 to 3. We have because the kids grow out of that stuff so fast developmentally. But yeah, like 3 to 6 has been pretty much our sweet spot. Active and Imagine Play has been really good. Some of that stuff's really expensive. Like on Monday, we're delivering a kitchen to somebody, right? Like one of those little play kitchens.
Yeah.
They do pretty well. Games and puzzles do pretty well. Learning toys, things like that. People want to like get their kid learning, and then again, they're going to hit different milestones. So they're learning their numbers now. They're learning their words. Well, how long does that last? And then once they're they know the alphabet and they know their numbers, they're moving on to something else. So those are the things that we're seeing. Where we're trying to get into, we're starting with parents, and then this or with kids, and this opens up the larger goals of Unless and Circa systems is sports equipment. And again, I think that the one thing I want to touch on with that, when we talked about customer discovery, is I think something that people have to keep in mind when they're starting a business is you got to do it from your own personal pain points, right? You have to have felt it yourself, but you can't just rely on your relation to that pain point. because that's only your perspective. And if I built this platform just for like what my wife and I wanted, it would have failed. Like I needed to look at everyone's perspective, all of their buying habits, how they're doing things, right? To understand how to build the most universally accessible platform. So I had the pain point of, my sons are now, they still play soccer. Now they're all jazzed on baseball, which I'm super excited about because I was a baseball player when I was a young man. And I didn't push them into it. They naturally gravitated.
Organically just gravitated.
What also helps is the Phillies are so fun and good. They love watching the Phillies, and they're like, we want to play baseball. So we went and, we checked out, and I was like handing my credit card over, like, okay, we just bought, like, because you got to buy the bat and the glove and the bag, and then they want the helmet, because back when I was a kid, everyone shared helmets. Now it's like, because of lice and stuff like that, everyone's got to have their own helmet. And I'm just like, unless kids has to do this, like we have to be able to. So hopefully we're actually starting to talk about what it would be like to start collecting sports equipment, preparing for that growth pretty quickly. And then once we get sports equipment, there's adults that are going to do that. And so many, I joke, I call like my again, I base a lot of stuff off of like what I observed from my own life and my family. My wife got super jazzed after watching the U.S. Open when Coco Gauff won, and she's like, "We're all playing tennis," and like we got these tennis rackets, and like and her and my son still play. We don't play, but some of the stuff's just kind of sitting around, and it's people get excited about a thing, they don't have it anymore. Now it's just sitting and taking up space in their garage. So we'll get into that market as well.
I will second that. I have to invest in too many sports things that I use maybe once a year, and it's for great times, but I could use a rental that way.
Well, so then are you planning on sticking to Philadelphia as kind of the key market for now as you expand to these different product types? Or are you trying to go more national? Yeah, how would you expand?
Yeah, so there's two things with that. One is we are looking to expand pretty rapidly as we like close our seed round. And as I said, you do certain things with different rounds. The seed round is really going to allow us to expand into other product sectors like sports equipment, or maybe even probably like outdoor recreation, which is really kind of a kindred spirit to that. And then also geographically. We already have seen a lot of uptake and a lot of demand in South Jersey and they call them the collar counties around Philadelphia. So we're seeing, and that was, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but it was a pleasant surprise that, we built this thing. It was like for people that, live in that small apartment or tiny row house and don't have garages, but then when we started getting out into the burbs and hearing from people, they're like, it's like, the Jevons principle, like you use the space, right? Like you have more space, you fill it up because you use it more because you have the space. We're seeing a big demand out there. So we're looking to kind of expand there. Another thing that we're doing, we just put this survey out. Maybe I could ask for you guys to give us a help to kind of get more reach on it. We put a survey out to all of our different circular economy friends and networks nationally. We are starting to think about what it would be like to have certain products on the site that we can ship nationally. Puzzles, books, things that are easily shippable. We knew early on from our research and talking to other companies that have tried to do this, when you start trying to ship big items, the cog is just so much money, and it just really eats into your profits and makes it really hard to create the profits that you need through your revenue. So we are looking to do that very thoughtfully, and as we kind of start, but we are looking to see how can we get those out to people.
How does that change even in the expansion from Philly? And again, we're talking now things about projected answers or theories here. But expanding out, I saw that you all actually got some good press, and you seemingly have you use some of the models sometimes of using an e-bike maybe to deliver some. How does that start to change your logistics practice, or that when you're starting to broaden out to the rings of which you serve a metropolitan area?
Yeah, and I mean honestly, the e-bike is a great marketing tool. When people like it, it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
It's really like function for us. I mean, getting around is like, especially in the dense parts of the city, it gets so congested, and there's certain areas where it will take me less time on the e-bike to get and deliver this thing than to drive the car around and do it and go through all of that. So that's a piece of it. Another thing too is, again, just my own personal thing. Like when you get stuck behind that, I don't know if I could say, if you have to bleep it out, Amazon truck in the middle of the street, parked on a one-way street.
No, we're keeping that in. Okay. That stays in. Yeah.
When you surround that Amazon truck, even though there's, they're all electric now and they're not having emissions, so it's blocking up a one-way street. It's just, we don't want to be that company. We don't want a big unless kids truck sitting out there. So the e-bike thing is actually for form and utility, but we also do know that we're going to, as we expand, even within certain parts of the city that are more kind of suburban, it takes a while to get out. We can hop on the highway in a car and get up there really quickly, and then you got to go all the way to the other part of the city. It makes sense. So it's really about what makes sense for our logistics. But we do also have a commitment to impact, and as we move, like the vehicle that we use a hybrid vehicle to deliver, we like to go all electric in our fleet right away, and work through that. We're also toying with, or looking at, we call them hive spots. So ideas where we can have certain areas like this kind of, logistics model where we have our center of space, but then we have these outposts where we can put material and then get them out and do the last mile deliveries. So we're starting to develop that as well.
Yeah, I was curious because like the Once Upon a Kid and the Plato's Closet model, right? It is a more franchise model. So I was curious, like when you're starting to talk about Hive, is that you want to grow that through on less kids, or would you consider a franchise model for expansion?
Yeah, well, that's kind of yet to be seen. It'd be interesting to see like what kind of partners, how we could do the setup. I have a whole email folder full of, as we get more and more press, like people reaching out nationally and saying,
Yeah.
I'd love to bring this to my town. How do I do
Yeah.
that? And we're
Yeah.
not prepared for that yet, but it's something that I continue to look through, and like, what does that look like for that expansion? Do we want to
Mhm.
become Amazon and have the just like very controlled national model where we're controlling everything that's happening, or do we want to work through community and see what that looks like, and let the idea take off? And that's something that we're continuing to discuss with our team.
We sort of touched on early on with Circa Systems and then your first product launch with Unless Kids. Why did you go that route of creating a Circa Systems brand, maybe parent company, and then a first product? This is a leading question. I'm thinking of doing the same thing.
Okay.
But I think that serves some purposes, and I'd love to think how you were thinking through that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, and I think every founder has to be like honest about this. Actually, some really great founder advice. I've been telling this to everybody because it's just stuck in my brain, is that when you're on this journey, right, you have to operate with so much faith. You have to have faith that your idea is going to work, that these risks that you're going to take are going to pay off, and faith is what keeps you going. But what people think the opposite of faith is doubt. And this person that I heard this from, who he's one of our mentors, who he's like, well, I heard this from somebody too. So it's just been wisdom passed down through the ages. He said, actually, the opposite of faith is certainty. Like that's the opposite of faith. So you have the faith until the certainty happens, right? So we started off saying, okay, this is why we started Circuit Systems. We wanted the technology, the operations, the logistics, and know-how to exist in this entity. To be honest, when Unless Kids first started, we had a view of like, okay, we have Unless Kids, and then we can start another product line that's its own separate thing when it comes to sports equipment. Then we can do its own thing for, we always had that in mind, but how the entities would be set up, and we would own these companies. Then as we looked through and we heard from a lot of investors, and as we started to think through it more, it was like, well, actually, it really makes sense for it to just live under Unless. We can continue to grow Unless beyond Unless Kids to just Unless. It's like, that's the thing that we're doing, right? Or, we have this great, right? We have this really awesome platform that's like generating all this revenue and these direct to consumer sales, but we also have this other system that people can tap into. And that's technology that Circa owns, and Circa owns all of that. So it was really about just kind of like what the ownership looked like, keeping our options open. I think, every founder has to, I think it's a good thing if you talk to an investor, that we're not just like putting all of our eggs in the basket of like, we are a B2B company. This is exactly SaaS. This is how it's like, there's multiple ways but you still have your guiding North Star, which is product cycling. We are going to create the conditions, the logistics, the operations, and technology to make product cycling the way that we do retail into the future. How we get there, we have to keep our options open. And I think there's some wisdom in that.
Can you share a little bit more about the technology piece and the platform and what Circa System owns and what is that's powering the infrastructure upon which Unless Kids runs?
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, we're using a base like e-commerce site to be able to do that. Again, there's a lot of thought in that, like why build the basic stuff that you need, like the checkout and the security and all that different stuff. And then from there, we have actually looked at a bunch of different plugins that can be used within that ecosystem to kind of put together the process of the system. And what we got from our technology advisors, and also what we've heard after we did that, was like, that was the right move, because it's more about setting up the process and the system rather than going to build the technology right away. Building that technology is extremely expensive. We would have not been able to raise a pre-seed to be able to create that proprietary piece. We just wanted to say, the way that we're envisioning this, we pieced it together, it works. And we've proven that out. With the seed round, we will look to build our own technology to bring it proprietarily in-house.
Always fascinated with proprietary in the world of circular economy because again that can be not to challenge directly, I agree in so many ways, but that word can be so fungible when it comes to what is actually being built. But that a lot of what is proprietary is actually the systems, the understanding, the knowledge,
Sure.
the processes of, in particular, circular economy systems. How does that play into the conversation of what you all are talking about in terms of maybe to investors, maybe also to customers of like, hey, this is what we specialize in? Because that's where it breaks down for some other entrepreneurs that are thinking about circular economy is it's complicated. And there's what you're owning is an understanding of the network and how to communicate. And so how do you communicate that to investors or other participants or stakeholders?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, when I say proprietary, like it's like basically it's the technology and this like that we built that it runs off.
Absolutely.
Someone else can use, right? Like that we can,
right.
From a business standpoint, of course, we would want to be able to like sell that to somebody and somebody's using that as a product, right? That's another product that's a possibility as we go. But the bigger thing is like one, like I said, the way we view product cycling, like we do not really see that happening in the market right now. I think it's something that's on people's minds and they see the possibilities of it, but we're actually doing it. And even if someone else came along and took our model and did it, it's like, go for it. That's great. We're just going to try to do it to the best of our abilities. I'm not going to say we'll do it better. I'm not going to like brag like that, it's like be that kind of competitive. It's just like, we're going to do it the best way we can. And it's not just about, it's a whole thing of secret sauce, right? You have to have really solid frictionless technology and experience that leads to a great UX UI. Then on top of that, you need to have the operations and logistics that get the product out to somebody in a seamless way and get it back. You have to have great customer service. You have to have great product. There's so many things that have to kind of work together to make a company successful. And we're trying to tap into all of those in a feedback loop so we can touch on all of them. Like you have the greatest technology in the world, the most frictionless experience. But if your customer success and service isn't great, then like people aren't going to use it, right? So that's how we're trying to like really track all those things. And like I said, I legitimately am looking for the day where it's not a question of should I use product cycling or circular systems. It's which one do I pick?
Real quickly then, Sabira, on customer acquisition, I would love to know not to share too much of the secret sauce at your discretion, but that's so key again. And we've talked a lot about communication. We've talked a lot about pricing, all of that. Where are these people coming from? Where are they finding you on Instagram? Or where are they searching for these types of solutions? Or is it, again, that parent that's looking for the Elmo in California and you happen to have that best priced product and then that introduces them to this type of model?
Yeah, so I think, so what we're doing right now, and again, this would be any suggestion, anybody who's going to start up is, you got to have all the levers, right? You got to try to this is the phase right now where you try everything, and you're going to have limited data, right? Because you have a limited user pool, but seeing what works and what doesn't and really trying to understand through the whole system, right? There's an investment you can make that might get you a bunch of users, but then you continue to make the investment and then you're not really getting users post that. Like, what does that look like through its whole life cycle of that lever that you're pulling? Different levers that we've pulled, our Instagram has got a great following and putting on fun videos. And I think, when it comes to like, we really try to get a good balance on our Instagram. I think, I'm going to be completely honest to your things. Like I'm not actually, it's funny. I am a natural salesman, but I'm also like, it hasn't been like top of mind for me to always like, I've done so much of my life for free that I'm like, I'll just do this thing for you because I want to see it exist in the world. My wife and I run an urban farm next to our house every Wednesday night from April to November. We're out there growing food with our neighbors because we want to see local food production. And it brings us so much joy that my kids can go outside and pick berries and eggs from the chicken coop. And they live in a city right off of the L in Philly, right?
I suffer from that. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah,
so it's cool, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I kind of am very mindful of like, I don't want our Instagram to just be buy. Like that just doesn't feel good. So we do fun videos. We do, like the laboratory video. Of course, there's like, we wanted people to want to buy stuffies, right? But there's ways that you can go about it that just, keep people engaged and make them feel good. We also really value like both like the kind of like actual like macro and like contract wise influencer relationships. So we work with influencers who we have like an agreement with, and then we also just we try to like value with our members. Like we want our members to tell their friends like this thing is great. This is a great service. You should use it. And to get that, I think that's actually probably one of the most powerful levers. Sometimes harder to do, but to get people to talk about it. And then also with paid media. I mean, you're not, especially if it's like not something that's tracked digitally. you put an ad somewhere, it's going to be hard to like sell what that conversion was. But there's some wisdom to, like in the old marketing sayings, it takes somebody to see something like 7 times before they take action about it. So the fact that they've seen it out there, like we're a known quantity, and like you have to be smart about it, that investment, but building that base of just brand recognition is a huge beginning piece of it.
As we wrap up our time together, we've had a lot of great conversation. What are you hopeful for, and what are you looking forward to in this coming year?
So I am hopeful for, and I'm looking forward to, like, securing the seed round investor and just really, taking this thing to the scale that we want it to be at right now. We see it on the horizon. We see the people using it. We understand why the limitations are that we're, that exponential growth hasn't kind of popped up on that in the area just yet because of where we have to invest certain things. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing that happen. I know it's in my heart that it's going to happen. I know on the paper and numbers and the business plan it's going to happen. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm just excited to see, in spite of everything that's going on in our world right now, circularity just continue to grow. It's just really it's really remarkable to see more businesses, more corporations, even in spite of, like I said, what's happening nationally and where some people are being like, you can't use certain words now, and like the word police are out there. But to see, like, at the end of the day, it's something that rises above any kind of politics. It just makes so much sense to do circular economy, and that's cool to watch too. And I'm excited to be a part of that and see how that grows over the next year.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the second or third time we've heard that this season.
That's great.
It's a big theme.
After the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I'm pretty excited. I think the Phillies are going to win the World Series. You heard it. It's opening day is next Thursday, but that's another thing I'm excited about.
Currently being in Philly, I have a house full of people that, if they heard that, would also cheer. Yes. Nic, what a joy. Thank you for joining us today. This was, I love your take. I love, again, you've done such an expert job of also packaging this information, I think in a very digestible way that will hit many people in our audience in a very visceral way as they start to approach either their kids or their newborns coming into this as well with toys. So thank you so much.
Where do you want parents to find you? Plug yourself.
Yeah, so please, go to unlesskids.com. You can sign up on the mailing list. Like we always say, if we're not in your area yet, if you're in Philly, please use us. If you're not, sign up, because we're going to get to your area soon. If it's okay, we'll figure out a way to maybe get that survey out to people.
Absolutely.
On our Instagram as well, and our LinkedIn. So definitely trying to get to those places. And then, follow us on Instagram at Unless Kids, or you can find us on LinkedIn under Circus Systems or Unless Kids.
And then the investment round still open and active in terms of searching for those right partners?
It is certainly open. I will say, from whether you're a lead investor, you're someone who wants to come in as an add-on, we have both kinds lined up right now. Again, we're still trying to figure out to secure that lead investor and get those terms set for the seed round. But we have a lot of really good traction, a lot of momentum, and we have, a product market fit in a scalable company that can really make a lot of impact and change and do something really great while also being a viable company. And I invite you to come help us out.
Well, it shows in how prepared you are for taking this on. So thank you for that. Okay, we look forward to meeting you in person. Hopefully coming up at Circularity or at another event soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.